let's get into it. Coach Colin here. Guys, we are talking about something very interesting. It is called Skywatcher. Now, I've touched on this a little bit in a past episode. Now, what is going on is that there are people who summon UFOs, UAPs, and they are having actual, tangible results. Now, are they having a gray pop out and be like, hey guys, what's going on? You guys called me? What do you guys want to do? It's not that, but there is a piling of evidence. Now, what I'm going to be showing you in this video is I'm going to be showing you Garry Nolan talking about this whole thing with Joe Rogan. Then I'm going to be showing you Jake Barber, someone who sets up these, in my view of what they look like, these seances where they are out in the desert and they are trying to summon these UFOs, UAPs with their mind. Jake says this is something that he can do and that he's known he can do for some time. And then I'm going to show you a couple of people who are actually talking about their experiences in this whole thing. So you're going to hear about it from Gary's position. Then you're going to hear about it from two people who actually had an experience doing it themselves. And then you're going to hear Jake Barber talk about things like what it all looks like, where it all stems from, who's the best at summoning these things, and the work that he's been doing. So it's an interesting episode. And what I'm going to be touching on throughout the episode is I think that if there was just a little more belief in the occult within this circle, and maybe there is, and some of them don't know it and some of them do, but I don't know if this is the best way to be doing this type of thing. Because again, it is possible that what you're summoning isn't quite what you think it is. Because when it comes to summoning UFOs, a very odd statement, summoning UFOs, you don't actually know what you're calling on at all. So let's get into it. Garry Nolan first, and then we're going to jump into the rest of it.
I can only provide this data and this evidence, and I don't have yet these materials. Now, maybe they exist, and maybe people like David Grush will be able to pry them out of the clammy hands of those who want to keep it where it is. But give me one piece of that, and I will do wonders with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm so excited about the UAP Disclosure Act if it ends up becoming law, because there will be this ability to start to maybe eke some of this out. And again, it's the reason why I think this commercial opportunity is the direction we want to go, where we have a sort of public-private partnership, is that the defense budget in and of itself is a zero-sum game. We're taking money from one program to give to another. Whether you're taking it from your taxes or you're taking it from veterans, insurance, et cetera, it's a zero-sum game. Whereas if you bring the investment community in, now you're bringing in people who are willing to take a chance and willing to take a risk, and you're not using the public's money anymore. And so, and that excites, me as the reason why I wanted to go back to Stanford is because the entrepreneurial environment there, and now which is actually almost homegrown here in Austin, is really what drives innovation. And so I want to excite that kind of community. And again, the Soul Foundation is a place where we can bring people in, and we've got investors who show up now who are talking to people about their ideas and what would we do with this. And so it almost has now a self-propelling movement where I don't need to be standing on a wooden box somewhere in the middle of the park saying, look at this, look at this. People are just doing it now. There's now a whole, almost a cottage industry of small groups or formalized groups who are doing this independently now. So it's almost like it's inevitable. So Skywatcher, as an example, you probably know the Skywatcher group.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And Jake Barber.
Didn't they just stop operations? Did something happen?
No, it's strange because people said, "Oh, we stopped." No, actually, it had been determined from the beginning that we were going to go from January until July or August and collect data, and now we're in the what does the data mean phase, where we're literally going through the data, looking at the data files and trying to. As I said before, we're filtering the data. We're looking for the obvious mistakes, et cetera. And so, no, they've not stopped.
Yeah, there was something on Twitter about something about equipment I forget.
No, so James Fowler, one of the guys who brought a lot of his equipment and technology to us, decided that he wanted to basically go off and work in a DoD capacity as opposed to the research capacity. But he's still advising us. I was just on a phone call, a Zoom call with him last week, going over the data files.
So explain this Sky Watcher thing to people, because it sounds insane.
Well, the idea behind it was that there might be ways to send a signal and get things to show up. And
Right.
James Fowler claimed that he had such a thing. I was at one of the events where something showed up. It was transient, momentary, but indisputable. But it's just like
What did it look like?
it was just a silver ball moving quickly through several frames of a video, which was not fast enough, frankly, to pick it up. We just saw it move. It went that way, and
You
then
didn't see it with your naked eye?
No, I didn't see it with the naked eye. Which, of course, is a problem.
Do they sometimes see things with the naked eye?
One guy did, yeah.
One guy.
Oh, I mean,
So are these things variable in their appearance?
I wish I had I don't have my phone here. But we do have a picture of one next to the helicopter, about 200 feet away, and it's just kind of a fuzzy white blob against a blue sky. But it was there, and it's not a cloud, and it's not a balloon. Mm-hmm. It's not discernible as anything obvious, but it was there, and it happened during one of these events out in the middle of the desert. And so, so the idea is behind Skywatcher is to see if there are ways to get them to show up, and if so, in a reproducible manner, and then have the right kind of simultaneous multi-sensor capabilities to measure it, meaning radar, IR, visual, people on the ground.
What are they sending to get these things to go? What signal?
James has a signal that unfortunately he won't. I don't know what it is.
He won't let everybody know what the bat signal is.
Well,
to
I
call
mean,
UFOs?
maybe, yeah, exactly. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but I mean, why would you put that out on the internet? Because you might render it useless. They're like, oh, I don't got to show up. Everybody's using it now.
Oh, so you think it's a trick? Like it tricks them into showing up?
I don't know. I really don't.
Don't you think they'd be smarter than that?
Well, that tells you something maybe about the level of smarts that might be incorporated into these, let's say, dumber machines. Maybe, yeah. That was exactly my thought. It's like, why would you show up when you know what it is, unless there's a reason you're basically trying to train the monkeys what to do. Maybe you're tricking the monkeys into sending. I don't know.
But isn't there a group?
Tricking the monkeys. It's such an odd thought process to think. See, and this is what I mean by if there was an element of the occult in his belief system. I'm talking about Garry here. In his belief, Joe as well. In this belief system, then you wouldn't resort to this odd idea that, oh, we're just monkeys and they're trying to train us. Because you can take that concept and then take the concept of people who dabble in the occult, doing seances and summoning things with frequency, with trances, with psychic abilities. There's more to support that than there is to support just saying, well, we're monkeys and we're dumb, so maybe they just want us to get smart so they show up when we try to, like, it's just, man, I'm telling you, man, people need to, they need to get rid of that idea. And listen, if you have that idea that we're all just monkeys, I get it, but I think it's a push towards believing that we're something very insignificant, and I don't think that we are.
It's like, why would you show up when you know what it is, unless there's a reason you're basically trying to train the monkeys what to do. Maybe you're tricking the monkeys into sending. I don't know.
But isn't there a group of people that just go out and they just using their mind, they meditate,
yeah.
And supposedly they have some success as well?
Yeah, there's the CE5 groups that do that, and I've never participated in any of that because I don't know how to measure it. I'm more than willing to believe that there are technologies capable of measuring thoughts at a distance that might be some super advanced. I don't believe you have to call it telepathy and magic. I think that there's, if such a thing happens, that there is a technology that might be able to read at a distance.
Right. Well,
I have no problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that either. I don't have a problem with the idea that consciousness is kind of vaguely and barely understood, and whatever our relationship to the universe itself and reality itself through consciousness is, it's not fully defined, and also it might evolve just like all of our other intellectual capabilities.
Right. Well, I mean, think of it this way. You know, you and I are interacting with each other through quantum waves. My meat brain sees you as an object, but yet everything that you are sits in quantum space-time down at the Planck level, and you're not even mass. You're just a series of, I mean, in some people's minds, vibrating fields and objects. And so
he just said that, and also that he doesn't believe in magic. He just said magic, but also doesn't believe in magic. It's just wild, because when you get into the quantum realm, you start talking about magic, basically. That's what you start talking about. And I know the nerds will be like, no, it's like, there's not enough people who fully really understand quantum mechanics to be like, this is just as solid as my arithmetic here. No. There's no people who have that grasp of it right now. They have good grasps of it, but he basically just said a bunch of magic. That's what he basically just said. But then also believes that we're monkeys. But then also that monkey knows about... Keep going. Put on your tinfoil Speedo, by the way, if you haven't already.
We have sensors that see and hear each other and think about each other, but our consciousness somehow is embedded in space-time. And so who's to say that there's not signals passing to and from that are vaguely able to be picked up by our meat brains that we don't necessarily appreciate? Right. So that just because I can't think at you and you can't hear me doesn't mean that there aren't perhaps brain organizations of some people that are a little bit better at hearing the echo than others.
Well, this is also probably the reason why when you go to the woods and there's no cell phone signals, the world feels different.
Yeah.
Because you're probably experiencing a bunch of signals that your brain vaguely interacts with.
Right.
That, might not even necessarily be good for you.
Right.
But they're out there and they're a part of the world that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have a radio.
Right.
So you're not like tuning into them. You don't have a
Right.
cell phone, so you can't just like make calls with it, but
Right.
you're experiencing it.
Right. Well, and, our civilization is drowning us in constant noise.
Yeah.
And so maybe, that drowns it out. And that's why meditation is why people claim that they can interact with other things. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Interesting stuff. Great episode, by the way. I mean, really didn't appreciate Joe talking to someone who's as well versed in the UFO world about cancer treatment. And listen, if they were to solve cancer with this episode, I'd be all for it. But they weren't. So get to the UFOs when you're talking to Garry Nolan, right? The guy said he's had his own experiences. He said he's had UFOs come through his window when he was a kid. And they came back over and over again for a week. They didn't even talk about that. Okay, that's fine. Joe does what Joe does, obviously. Now, let's move on. And I just have to say, going back, just think about it. They're also talking about meditation. They're talking about all these weird occult elements, but they're not framing it as that. They keep trying. I noticed with Garry Nolan, he keeps trying to go back to science, which of course you should do if you're a scientist like he is, right? He's a brilliant scientist, but it seems like he's always too afraid to step into the tinfoil realm because of how he'll be seen by his counterparts at Stanford. It seems like he's just trying to keep it like right in the middle, where he's not going off the deep end, but he's just considering a lot of things. And, he's trying to make it clear, like, all this has a scientific explanation. And he's always doing that. I've noticed that in the few interviews, I'd say like 6 I've watched with him. He's always trying to kind of pull it back to that. And maybe that's just his belief, but I feel like there's a part of it that has to do with the community that he's in at Stanford and wanting to still be respected there and not seem like a tinfoil Speedo wearing maniac. You know what I mean? Like the rest of us here. Now, this guy's name is Jay Anderson. And he's just going to go through his experience, what he experienced when he was actually doing this. And then we're going to get into another experience, and then we're going to have Steve Greer talk about how he does this whole thing, and then we're going to get into Jake Barber and everything that his work that's been alongside with Garry, what he's been figuring out. And it's a roller coaster. Let's go.
If this didn't happen to me, for me, these experiences began lightly and elevated in intensity as I continued to actively engage in contact attempts. Flashes of light in the night sky, white orbs that look like satellites coming over, but in far higher volumes than I was accustomed to as a sky watcher who is used to seeing satellites. I mean, I've looked at the stars in the sky all my life, and I know that we have more satellites up there now, but even so, it was more than just satellites, because some of the satellites would glow and then flash, not once, but over and over, in what felt like responses to my thoughts or greetings in real time. And this was the kind of thing I started seeing very often and in greater volumes. And I looked into all of the debunking materials, the traversal of iridium satellites that can cause flashes from light refraction, etc. And no doubt I saw something like this once or twice and misconstrued what I had seen. But there were other times where it was simply not rational to categorize that behavior as prosaic and explainable. Too many of them, too many occurrences, too much of a synchronicity between my thoughts and what appeared to be direct responses to them in the form of these visual flashes. But it was in the summer of 2019, in August, that I had my most profound experiences. I've spoken about these experiences quite a few times publicly, but for those that have never heard about them, I'll briefly explain what happened.
Now, I just want to say, he just mentioned August. There was another video that I did where to the day, I think it was August 27th, and I was recording and released the episode on August 27th. And someone in the comments, shout out to you, because it seems like you're right. I don't remember who it was, but they're like, if you notice, these weird things always happen in August. And I was like, I don't know about that, but I keep hearing that more and more about August. So shout out to that person. Good job pointing that out
to me, because I went from seeing things like these satellite-looking objects that weren't really behaving like satellites, to seeing a triangle formation of orange orbs make itself visible to me by revealing itself out of a cloud. So a cloud that was drifting past my house and did a complete right angle turn until eventually it was above my head. I've been looking out into a crystal clear sky. I had seen some other strange behavior prior to this, but then noticed that a moderately sized, dark looking cloud was moving across the sky. When I looked closer, this cloud was producing an effect that I had never seen before. It's hard to describe, but it looked like the entire cloud had this light overlay of static around it. I could see this kind of shimmer, and the best way to describe it is literally imagine a cloud and then place a light amount of TV static over it. It looked like this, right? And this cloud was drifting in what appeared to be a natural motion. It was coming from the left-hand side of my sky, and it was moving across to the right. And I was at the back of my garden looking towards my house. So basically this cloud was going to eventually be above my house and then would keep moving off to the left and continue its trajectory. But this didn't happen. When the cloud drifted across the sky until it was in alignment with my house and myself, it suddenly did a very jarring right angle turn. It completely changed its natural drifting trajectory and was now moving in the sky towards my house and towards me at the back of the garden, looking up. So it was eventually going to be above my head. Literally did this kind of movement. Complete directional change. Bear in mind, it had this strange static-like effect coming from it, and it had done a completely abrupt, unnatural directional change. So already I was a bit freaked out by this, and all I could do was stare as it got closer and closer until eventually it was above my head. And as it got above my head, I swear on all that I love in this world, this cloud dissipated in a matter of seconds. It just kind of collapsed in on itself and revealed that within it was a triangular formation of roughly 25, maybe 30 orange orbs of light. They were in a complete formation, triangle formation. The formation kept moving in the direction that the cloud was moving, so I had to turn myself around and watch as it went off into the distance. I could see that some of these orbs were actually weaving in between each other, kind of like swapping places in this formation. And the whole experience lasted, I would say, maybe about 3 minutes, but it could have been more. It's very hard to know, in all honesty. I was in a total state of shock. No intelligent thoughts, no peaceful greeting, and no desire to even consider trying to film it, because I was simply in a state of complete awe and could not tear my eyes away from what I was seeing. I saw these orbs again on another evening, but this time, and this was all within the space of about a month, maybe just under a month. They flew across the sky, 3 of them, and they stopped on a dime directly above me in the sky, or at least above my property in the sky. And then they began to descend down towards my property, and they were weaving in between each other in this kind of strange dance-like motion, a little similar to the formation swapping behaviors that I saw with the triangles. They were drifting down very, I mean, I hate to say it, but almost angelically, very magic and strange, and quite calming as well, quite a calming, non-threatening behavior in their motion, just kind of flitting down and weaving around each other. And then they just stopped very abruptly, almost as if they were frozen in place, like someone just pressed pause. And this was roughly 3 feet above the roof of my house where they stopped. 3 of these orbs, roughly basketball sized, a light kind of pastel orange color, slightly transparent. And one of the things that I didn't really think about at the time, but upon reflection, I've realized that this was the case, and I've heard other people explain this as well. They weren't giving off light. There wasn't any sort of glow on the roof of my house, and they themselves weren't really glowing. It was like a self-contained light. Very strange to describe, to be honest, because the more I think about it, the more I think, well, it didn't behave like a normal light. There wasn't refraction onto the surrounding environment. It was almost as if it wasn't really there, which is kind of crazy, right? I mean, I have thought about that. I have thought about, well, maybe these are psychic projections. You know, no one was with me to see these ones. No one was with me when the orange orbs turned up. So I mean, I only have my own subjective data to draw upon.
So that's his experience. Very, very wild. Orange orbs, about 30 of them. They're moving around, things of that nature. Now, I want to interview this guy. So if you like the interviews that I do at all, this guy's name's Jay Anderson, the Unity Project. If you are on X, please, the Project Unity, please tag this guy in a post and just say, Coach Colin wants to talk to you. Okay. If you're on X and you like my interviews, please say that, because I want to talk to this guy. He has a whole bunch of stuff that he talks about, and I think he's a very interesting dude. So I'd love to talk to him. Now let's move on to a different experience as well. Now, again, like Rogan said, and like Garry was talking about, there's a lot of people just doing this independently now. For God's sakes, load up a camera, guys. I don't know. Am I the only one that's thinking that? Load up a camera. Could you imagine? And I believe, but at the same time, could you imagine this guy did this whole thing? It's an hour. You can see it's an hour. Can you imagine he did this whole thing and just thought, oh, I forgot to press, oh, I didn't record it. I just said it out into nothing. I just said it. Oh man, I just didn't record it. We'd be like, oh, what's wrong with you? You didn't record the hour-long thing of you talking? Oh. But looking into the sky for UFOs that you're trying to summon. You're not filming that. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? I'm just saying, just point it in the sky. That's it. Just lay back and do whatever weird stuff you got to do. Anyway, let's jump into another. Again, I'm making a joke, but it's, there's truth in every joke, but I do believe, but come on, get your cameras loaded, guys. Oh, I had too fast here. This lady's talking about, again, another independent person, and she's just talking about when she was in a group doing this. She might have been working with CE5. She might have been, but let's listen to the clip.
Energy started to build with our group, and I believe coherent energy has an impact as a vibration in the world. And as our energy started to get like, oh my goodness, wow, something's happening, it started to get darker. And Natalie was just taking pictures. And she took a picture and went, oh my God. And I can show you the picture. It was like a ball of energy that had morphed into like a human face. Wow. So me being me, we had people, you know, there with us. I didn't want them to think we'd sort of staged anything, because of course not. We didn't really know each other. I didn't know Natalie before that day. We all knew each other through Zoom. None of us had physically met each other, even though we lived around the corner from each other, which is, again, coincidence. So as she's picking up, and then she's picking it up on the camera, so without taking pictures, she was picking it up through her camera. I thought it's a plastic bag.
But not to the human eye, just to the camera.
Not all of us could see it, but I had a psychic friend of mine, and she was getting very uncomfortable. And she was like, there's something there. And it just so happened to be. But again, you know, there's a lot of variables. So as Natalie's showing, you know, where it is, I darted off into the bush thinking, is it a plastic bag? What is it? And as I'm going towards it, it was moving. So there was an intelligence. It's just the way the face, so that I always get goosebumps. So that was an interesting one, and that's always, you know, for our first event as a group, it solidified our quest. Yes, wow, something's happening. It started to get darker, and Natalie was just taking pictures. And she took a picture and went, oh my God. And I can show you the picture. It was like a ball of energy that had morphed into like a human face. Wow. So me being me, we had people, you know, there with.
Hey, you talked to the demon that day. Hey, there's no ET that day. Hey, you were talking with the demon. Hey, you're talking with Nephilim. Did you ask for anything? I hope you didn't, because you'll end up getting dipped in baby oil in order to get it. Just saying, be careful. But that was her experience as well. And again, I'm not dismissing these people's experiences. I think that I think it's possible, but I think, especially after the research that I've been doing for the episode that I released yesterday, how psychics can possibly get tricked into thinking, you know, people with spirit guides and they're psychics, and they get tricked into thinking that they're talking to one thing while it's impersonating another. That is a thing that demons, spirits will do, whether it's just for mischief or if it's just for straight up evil. They will do that type of thing. So it's like, what were you calling? And that's the thing with this whole thing. I'm going to play Stephen Greer talking about his whole thing. You have to know what you're trying to call. Like if it was like Greys, we're trying to contact Greys. It's like, at least you can put a face to what you're trying to call. What else is there? I've heard people talk about mantis people. What is there NORADs? But whatever it is, at least have that in mind when you're trying to summon something. There's a reason why you hear everybody from major religions say who they're talking to when they pray. There's a reason for that, because you want to make sure that it's signed, sealed, and delivered for the right person, the right entity, the right God, the right whatever you're trying to do. You know, Satanists, I'm sure Satanists do their thing, and they don't want it to go to Jesus. They're like, no, we're trying to, no, we were actually, Jesus, you got it? That was actually meant for Satan. So sorry about that. No, we were doing a seance here. I know it's very dark. It was meant for Satan. Sorry about that, sir. If you could you give that back to us? Oh, he's not going to give it back. See, this is why I don't like this Jesus guy. They make sure they know exactly who they're talking to. I think these people have to kind of do that same thing. But again, if you don't have a belief in the occult, you're not going to kind of take that same preparation, reverence. Let's keep going. So that's what he has going on. As you can see, it's available everywhere. some people don't think much about Greer. I've been noticing in the UFO community, some people talk about him like he's absolutely incredible. Other people, like UAP Gerb, he was talking about Greer in a very negative way, saying that his organization put some whistleblowers in compromising situations. So I don't know what to make of the guy. I reached out for an interview. They said no. So I lean towards he's not the best guy. That's what I lean toward. No. But it's interesting. You know, he's talking about meditating. He's saying that they're not calling them, they're inviting them. That's the same thing, in my opinion. And honestly, again, all this sounds like a seance. If you don't know what a seance is a ritual or gathering where individuals attempt to communicate with spirits of the dead, often facilitated by mediums who claim the ability to channel messages from the spirit. Now, as much as that might not sound like what's going on, you got to remember that woman who I just played her experience, she was saying how her psychic friend is the one that can actually was able to actually really see it and get really uncomfortable. So she felt it more than everybody else. You're going to hear Jake Barber talk about it, and he's also going to verify that. Those two people have never met before. He's going to say something along those lines as well, where it does have to be someone who's a little bit psychic. So this seems like a seance. Just that's where I'm at with it. I got to be honest. You're summoning something, and you don't even know what you're summoning. It's not the best thing you want to do. At least people in Hollywood are like, listen, I'll be dipped in baby oil, but the thing about it is I want to be really famous, and I want to date Megan Fox, and I want to, there's a whole bunch of things I want to do. Yeah, I'll get face tattoos and everything, but you got to make sure it's Megan Fox, the one from Transformers. Let's be very clear about what I'm asking for here. They're very clear, and these people aren't. And I think this could be, I don't want to say their downfall, but I would love to know what's happening in their lives as they do stuff like this, like afterward, because when it comes to seances and summoning entities, certain happenings begin to happen in people's lives. Sometimes it affects their health. Sometimes it affects their mental state. There's a lot of things that could start happening. Listen to this clip. This is where we get into the Jake Barber part of the episode.
In August of 2024, Jake and the Skywatcher team conducted their own operation with a psionic asset to see if they could summon a UAP themselves.
Look, there's two. Look at this. Look right here. Look at this one going down and this one going up.
This footage from another Skywatcher operation showing the team's protocols. The team hoped to quietly gather evidence for Skywatcher, but instead found themselves in danger once more, and Jake says a UAP dogfight erupted in the sky above them. He believes the craft summoned by the team was warring with a rogue UAP piloted by an unknown entity attempting to intercept Skywatcher's operation. Tell me what happened.
So we set out to do this operation. Right away when the psionic asset went into meditation, he is reporting that he is engaged and in fact piloting a craft and is bringing it in.
So he's actually telepathically controlling alien technology?
Yes. As crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what we set out to do, what he reported we would do.
You think they're doing that? I know Jack Parsons asked for the knowledge of rockets. Nikola Tesla asked for all of his inventions. He was looking towards that when he was calling on it. I know that there's many people who ask for certain things, ask for musical talent, ask for super intelligence, ask for information that other people just don't have access to. Can you just psychically control a piece of alien technology? And here's the thing. As much as when I heard that, I was like, oh, this is BS. As much as that goes off in my head, I hear the crinkle from the tinfoil Speedo I have on. And then also you have to think, I think to myself, well, my own thinking is that there is an effort within society to make us feel like we are very insignificant, that we are just apes and we're terrible and our emotions are terrible and we need a machine to get rid of those emotions and we actually need to be governed by machines because we're just not to be trusted, and et cetera, and there's no soul, and there's nothing big to the human being, this conscious being that has a soul and a spirit and a heart and a mind, unlike anything else on this planet. We're told to think that that's just very insignificant, that whole thing. Maybe we are significant. I do have that belief. So now when someone says he was psychically controlling this UAP, I go, okay. Maybe the human being is something that big. Maybe the human being is something that important, is something that's equipped with a mind and consciousness that could do something that incredible. I can't walk away. I have to have that congruence. So, I'm just thinking out loud here. Think about calling a podcast Thinking Out Loud. Might do that. I don't know. Let's keep going.
And then things got a little weird. Right about I'd say 4 or 5 minutes into the operation, he goes, something's going on, something's wrong, get me out of here. And right about that time, our Overwatch Fred looked up to the sky and saw a disc, a classic lenticular shaped disc.
That was Fred Baker, Special Operations veteran, now part of the Skywatcher team.
So he was flying the egg. And then when we had to pull him out of this, that's when the egg dropped.
Wow, so at the very moment that he's essentially detaching his mind from the object, you see it fall.
Correct.
Very interesting, man. A lot of ex-military special ops in Mexico, you know what they do? They start cartels and become cartel members. In America, they become these UFO guys. It's very interesting. I wonder what they do in Sweden when they're done with their service. And I'm just making a joke. But I mean, I don't know. It's just very odd. But the thing about it is, as much as I want to say you can't trust these guys because they were a part of that whole system, who else is going to have the information? As much as we want it to just be a regular guy who has no connection to anything, as much as we want that, it's going to be people who, like Grush, were interacting with presidents and interacting with this agency and this bureau and this. It's going to be people like that. We can't, I don't know any way around that, So this is Grush. This is a picture I've shown before. This is David Grush and Jake Barber, and this is them at, it's a summoning conference. So basically a conference that's talking about all these things. It's talking about Greer stuff. It's talking about Jake stuff. It's talking about Skywatcher. It's talking about meditation. It's talking about all these things in regards to summoning UFOs. And it's just this big summit. And again, people point this out because it's like, okay, Grush even believes in this, right? Jake Barber and Grush are together in this whole thing. Very interesting. Now, here's another clip of Jake Barber talking a little bit more about this whole phenomenon.
There was a gathering at Islin?
Okay.
Of course, that's how fast I have it. You guys don't even know. I don't listen to anything at normal speed. This is the only time I do, quite honestly.
There was a gathering at Islin.
Okay.
And a lot of very high net worth individuals who were interested in suppression of non-human intelligence attended. What happened?
I think something epic happened. I think something happened that, if it was fully documented and understood, would go in the history books.
I had a feeling last week that was historic.
It felt absolutely historic. What you had was a combination of the world's leading, like most frontier scientists. You had people that were top experts in all their fields. And then you had a variety of fields that was outrageous. We had neurosurgeons, doctors in neurosurgery. We had physicists. We had high net worth individuals in the billions that were extremely open-minded and had a frontier attitude towards all this. We had mystics. We had psychic kids. We had children from Germany that could harness and actually showcase their ability to perform telekinesis, their ability to psychically see things with their mind, and were able to prove that to all of us. We also deployed some of our psionic assets that we've used and are part of our new team with Skywatcher, and we summoned UAP. We had the UAP come and fly around and visit and hang out with us and take off.
And I have to say, I saw it too.
Yeah.
And it was profound.
I saw it. I saw it. You ever heard Australian people talk? That's how they talk. I saw it. It's very interesting. Now, just to touch on this, he's saying, no, Siri, I'm not. So why is Siri always listening over here? Siri, turn off. Turn off, Siri. I'm not talking to you. Thank you. It's ridiculous. The people at Apple are probably like, are you listening to what this guy talks about for hours? It's like, he doesn't even sound like he's talking to anybody. But getting into this, he says that he had mystics there. I really wonder what the mystics were saying that he had. First off, who they were. And if they're there, wouldn't those mystics connect it like I am right now and say, this is kind of like a seance? What are you attracting? Like, you can't just let some guy say, hey, it's a UAP, it's an alien. Wouldn't you want some kind of verification as to that? So I don't know. I won't just say, oh, he's lying, he didn't have mystics, but I would think those mystics would say something, would at least give him a little breakdown of, hey, you got to be careful with what you're doing. You're using your mind to attract things. That's powerful and dangerous. But here's another clip.
It's been suggested to me that left-handed gay men are particularly good at it.
Yeah, that's...
Wow, did you hear that just now? He said you're a psychic. Wow, you didn't hear that? That's exactly what he just said. You watching right now, he just said that you're a psychic.
It's been suggested to me that left-handed gay men are particularly good at it.
That's you. That's you. Oh, just a little window into what it's like to be my friend. If you're ever wondering, that's... I got that clip just so I could make that joke. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm just saying. It's what it's like to be my friend. But it is odd, so let's listen to it.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case, that there is a larger distribution of the predisposition amongst children and gay men. For whatever reason, the demographic, when compared to normal society within the program, that gay men and kids and females are more often seen as having the predisposition for the psionic ability.
It's been suggested to me.
Now, that is odd. All jokes aside, that is very odd if that's what they're seeing. Because at the same time, as crazy as this sounds, Garry Nolan even touched on it. They are doing this and gathering up data. Now, what they're gathering in terms of, because in the seance atmosphere, they are wearing this technology. They are using their minds. So what data they can collect there, that's to be seen. And then they would have to correlate that to the actual sightings that they're having. So they are compiling data. So they will be able to tell who's better at this and who's not so good at it. Females and children make sense to me. I was talking with a hospice nurse on the weekly interview that I do. I'm just going to call it the Tinfoil Speedo, guys. That's what I'm calling that podcast. So I was on the Tinfoil Speedo and I was talking to this hospice nurse, and she was just talking about the veil thinning as people are transitioning to the afterlife. And we started having a conversation about how that veil is probably also very thin when people are born into this life. So, and I've seen it with my own kid. It seems like the veil's very thin. You know, I showed my kid a picture of her great grandfather, and I said, "Who's that?" And she went, "I." And I went, "What?" She went, "I." And I was like, "Huh, okay." And it's interesting because I always felt like that grandfather was around my wife and watching over her. So it's very interesting that happened. But I'm just saying, the veil's thin with kids. So that makes sense to me. Females also make sense because they are sensitive. You know, woman's intuition is a real thing. You know, when you have a good woman, anyone, mom, like when you have a woman that you're actually connected to, they can just like walk into a room and know exactly what's going on with you. They can just look at your face. They can put a hand on you. They can hear you take a breath and just know what you're going through in a very interesting way. So that makes sense. Gay guys, I don't know. They're sensitive like women, I guess. No offense to anybody out there. Just saying. Just trying to make connections here, guys. All right. So let's move on to the next clip here. This is Jake Barber talking again. This is where he sat down with Jesse Michaels and they had a conversation. Let's check that out.
You're either born with a gift or you spend 30 years as a Shaolin monk and you figure out how to do it the hard way. There are either easier ways, there are cheats, and some of the cheats that have been experimented with are things that have not fared well for those involved in the program, including children, and I'll talk about them. So how do we heighten intuition? Well, you do it through stress inoculation. You do it through triggering flight or fight or flight biology systems in our body. Some of the most powerful things you can do is trigger that on. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, don't reinvent the wheel. The human mind and body is already something so spectacular we don't understand it. I don't know why it works, but if you can trigger flight or fight, all these things get activated, and intuition does. So stress inoculation is one. You got to hijack the amygdala and boom, you put someone there. You need to do that to heighten intuition while subduing intellect. How do you do that? You subdue the intellect by disassociation. So there are chemical ways to induce disassociation. There are more proactive ways that you could do yourself, like through meditation. But all in all, those are the two things you do to get into that state.
Now, if you notice what he just said, you know, that the guy showed at the beginning, the Jay Anderson guy, you know, as much as I didn't like when he said it, he said I had no intelligent thought, and that's why he didn't film it. So it does kind of correlate. He's saying I had no intelligent thought in my head whatsoever. Maybe that's why he was able to have that experience. There was just nothing going on. That also kind of explains children as well. I mean, it's not to say children are not intellectual, but they definitely don't have all of the noise that we have built up in our minds, all the worries, all the doubt, all the fear, all of those things. They just don't have that range of experience. So could make sense there.
Well, kids are naturally way more visceral in both of those things. They're naturally more intuitive. Their intellect is lower. There is one more thing that you have to do to even enter that, and that deals with the other eye, instinct. So your instincts have to be satisfied at this time. So that just means you have to be comfortable. Can't be hungry, can't be horny, can't be tired, can't be worried about your survival. You can't be cold, you can't be hot. So all that has to be taken care of. So
we're just going to let him get away with that. Jesse's not going to ask him a follow-up question. This guy just said you can't be horny. How you know that, Jake? How'd you figure that out, Jake? You know what I mean? Listen, this is why I started doing an interview show, because people don't ask the questions. I need to know, how did you figure that out? How did you know? So I don't know. I was just trying to summon. Couldn't think about anything. I was trying to summon these UAPs. Is there anybody horny in the room right now? You? Go take care of it. Come back after you're done. Told him not to come here like that. Are you finished? All right, let's go. There's the UAP. Yeah, see? You were holding us back. You were holding us back. Don't do that again. How do you figure it out? I'm just saying. I know it's come on.
So the limbic part of your brain is not like freaking out, while the prefrontal cortex, whatever part of the brain it is that's more responsible for the hardware that helps you connect to the consciousness internet is. So satisfy the instinct, heighten the intellect, or suppress the intellect, heighten the intuition, add back in the intellect at a high level, boom, you're in it. Now, there's another way that we do, and that's through hardware. So you could do software, chemical, drugs in order to get stress inoculation to disassociation, or you can do hardware. One of the guys on our team has made a breakthrough recently and uses a system which is basically a non-intrusive ultrasound system that can target the brain and induce, or at least take a lot of the edge and the struggle out of transitioning into that state. And so he's one of the guys that works in our new organization that is assisting us with reproducing and demonstrating all of this stuff that has gone on over the decades in the program that comes with all this baggage and secrecy and stuff. And we're trying to leave all that behind and do it now in this clean and free environment where we have autonomy as a private organization working in partnership with government organizations and educational institutions to put this out there once and for all. And, in that effort, we feel this is a much more humane way, and everyone that works with us is doing so on a volunteer basis. But how the ultrasound works is it can get through the skull, and it can target parts of the brain to help you transition out of intellect and into your intuition. And
wow, very, very interesting stuff. The human mind is a very powerful thing. So I definitely can't doubt him on that. It is a very, very powerful thing. Very wide eyes as I move on to this next clip. Very, very wide eyes. I just wonder, again, my main thing is, are you sure of what you're calling? In a realm where you don't know what's what, and you don't believe that there is a good and evil running around in this whole thing, how can you be so sure of what you're getting involved with? And here's the thing. Who's to say, just like when I talk about CERN, like CERN does something and they go, we messed up again. But you don't actually know what happened. You might have messed up in terms of your goal, your initial goal, but something else could have happened in the universe, in the solar system, in our world that they're not taking into account. They just don't know that happened because they have that one goal in mind. And the same thing could be happening with these people. They have this one goal in mind and they have no idea what they're calling. They could be calling other things. For all they know, they could just call something in and that thing can't figure out a way out. You just have no clue. And if it's just a gray alien who's just like bebop, boop, bebop, well, what the bebop is going on here? If that's what it is, then fine. He'll figure it out, or he won't. And then he'll fly our solar system. He'll be like, oh man, I'm light years away because of these people who just summoned me over here. I don't know, man. It's just interesting. Again, people really need to get together from different perspectives, from the religious perspective, from the UFO perspective, scientific, occult. All these people really have to start getting together so they can really parse things out. Because at the end of the day, all those things that I just mentioned do make up the human experience. I think every part is right in what they're doing and what their goal is. But I think if they come together, they can understand what's going on a lot better. Anyway, let's jump into this last one. This is where he's just explaining more about Skywatcher and what this is all about.
By saying, this is stuff that I've come to know recently. The night that I had this experience, there was another team involved, come to find out was a psionics team, and they were also working that night.
And do you think it was them that had attracted the object in the first place?
Yeah, I do.
And so how did the object come to land?
I think it was invited to land by the psionics team.
Is that always how they make the objects land?
No, there's a number of other ways. So I have to tell you that weapon systems are tested out there.
I know this from other sources. I know that high pulse microwave weapons are being used to bring down some of these craft.
Yes.
Now, how often was it done where the objects would land on their own accord, and how often was it done that weapons would be used?
Yeah, I can't tell you how often. I can tell you they are brought down both ways, that they are invited to land by the psionics team. Other times they are invited in by the psionics team, but then HPMs, which are high-powered microwave weapons, are deployed, and they have an effect where they can disrupt the flight pattern of the object. And when it is an object, sometimes it's not, and it can result in that aircraft being forcibly brought down.
When they did the attraction of the objects, was it purely psychic, or was there machinery that was used as well?
So there's 5 components to our operation, which might answer a lot of your questions. So the first component is a calling phase. Calling is either through man or machine-based summoning systems. We have man-based systems, which are our psionic assets, which make a connection through intuition or consciousness with the object and can invite it in. The other is a machine-based calling system, which uses many systems, which I'm not going to go into detail about. You could refer to them as a dog whistle or a lure, and UAP, certain types seem to be specifically attracted or responsive to our machine-based calling systems. And then from there, once they're brought in, we communicate with them. Now, the psionics can have a dual role, because in this communication phase, we do a lot of data collection. So it's verifying that what we are seeing is something tangible, also that it is responding to our efforts. So we might invite it to move left or right, or to position our particular machine-based systems in a particular direction, and then measure the response.
The implication of what you're saying is that this intelligence that's behind these objects, whatever it is, seems willing to share.
Yeah, I think it ultimately is working for us. And it is commonly talked about that what we are getting, even when we weaponize it, is a donation, a gift. And even when we deploy equipment, when there's a combined operation with a psionics team and a machine-based team, all the equipment kind of has to be blessed and brought in when it's a psionically led operation for summoning.
A lot of people watching this, Jake, are going, I'm sure, this is crazy. This guy's making this up. This can't possibly be true. Yeah. Alien vehicles, psychic techniques to engage with technology. This is disinformation, fabrication.
Yeah. Well, we intend to prove that's not the case, which has a lot to do with the timing as to why I'm coming out now. We plan to produce that evidence in our new venture with our teams that we've used for years. In the legacy program, we've now gotten out and we've pooled our resources, and we're backed by venture capital. We're also working in coordination with the most forefront government agencies that you would want involved with us on this subject matter. And we're going to start producing evidence on all of this, and we're going to share it with.
But crucially, you know it works because you've seen it done.
Yes. Yep.
And so have your colleagues.
That's correct.
What would you say to people who might say, there's no way a secret like this could have been kept for so long? I mean, you're describing an operation that, in your experience, has been going for at least 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Do you know how long the program's been doing, the psionics?
I would say, I'm sorry, get over it. I don't know what else to tell you.
So it can be kept. A secret can be kept.
Oh, yeah. Secrets, there are lots of secrets. Some kept for good reasons.
So let me briefly summarize the implications of what you're saying. Aliens are real.
So I would like to know, unfortunately, we got to get really specific with the semantics, okay? So what do you mean by alien?
Something non-human and intelligent built craft that you have been involved in recovering.
Yes, something that is inconsistent with our idea of what a human is involved with these craft.
Are these intelligences, whatever they are they extraterrestrial? Are they from somewhere else, or could they possibly be living on this planet?
I got to remind you, I'm a security and transportation guy that has been involved in this program really within the purview of those two categories. So you're going to have to ask someone else.
I presume you got a chance to talk to the psionics?
Yeah.
Now, one thing that he said that is so true that a lot of people tend to dismiss is that secrets can be kept. That is very true. Secrets can be kept. I know people always think, oh, well, it's just so many people would be involved. So many people together could keep a secret. It's just very, very possible, especially when they need, especially not only do they need to, but they believe in whatever effort the group is pursuing. They believe in that, right? Maybe they're even like generational, believe in that. Like their fathers worked for it, grandfather worked for it, right? They believe in what's going on, and also they're coerced with threats. Those two things together, it's like, what else do you need to see? You see a guy run his mouth and he disappears. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not doing that ever. Plus, I really believe in what's going on, so why would I even? I mean, secrets can be kept for a very long time. Now, with what Jake's talking about, yeah, I want to play one more minute because I want to hear what he's about to say about this Sonics team.
When they mentally, telepathically engaged with whatever this intelligence was, what did they tell you about it?
Well, that they refer to it as a they in a very spiritual nature, something like angels, angels and demons. Let's say there's certainly good energies and bad energies, but it's talked of in a very nebulous way like this, because no one really knows what it is. No one, especially on the psionic side, we're still trying to figure that out. We're still trying to figure out exactly what it is. And there's probably a number of things going on. There might be biological entities, and we use the word biological for a very specific reason. Biological, we limit it to that because we aren't here to imply that it is sentient or has a consciousness. We really don't know that. There is some evidence that shows it might be the case that these are something like soft tissue drones or lab meat that was programmed in order to operate craft.
Meat robots.
Meat robots, yeah.
Okay.
So it really begs the question, but ironically, while some of the biological cargo that comes with these craft is not conscious, consciousness itself is how you interact and pilot the craft, which is ironic because for the first time ever, the biological creatures inside are not conscious, but the craft is.
The other implication too.
Very interesting. Very interesting. As they get into that part. But the one thing that stood out there was the fact that he admitted you really don't know what this is. He's saying good and bad, referencing angels and demons, which is exactly what I think could be going on. I think it's closer to that than any just far off, light years away place. And when you summon them with your mind, they're like, oh, let's teach the monkeys that we come when they summon us. What? That barely, in my mind, that doesn't even make sense. So the fact that he's admitting that is good, but it just seems because, there's these psychic people, the psionics team, they're working alongside these psychic people. And he even mentioned mystics coming in, maybe not into the direct project that they're working on, but at some point, it just seems so irresponsible for those people. You would think that they would know not to do that kind of thing. But I say that, and I also remember, remote viewing was used in, all sorts of people can do it. And it doesn't mean those people are angelic whatsoever just because they possibly have that ability. So we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. But it also makes me wonder how long this has been going on. Because again, the being that Aleister Crowley summoned looked like a gray alien, also looked like the Peruvian mummies that they recently discovered. I don't know, man. I think there's way more of a connection than we're being told. Now, I am going to just leave it off with one more clip that I want to play. Let me just make sure. I was looking deep into the occult stuff, which I don't like to do, but I was doing. This dude is a real occultist who does seances all the time. And just to hear him talk about this, it sounds like they're in the realm of what this guy does here.
Based on how many people you're working with. But
of course, that's how I'm listening to it. Let me just put it normal. Let's go.
This would suffice. It really depends on the amount of room that you have. There are classical ideas about how large it should be, but in practice, it really depends on the area that you're working in.
Now, I assume that when you're inviting a deity, that's a very difficult process that you probably have to earn.
Yeah.
Right? And it perhaps would take years to reach that point.
Yeah.
So you said that these circles are used to call higher spirits.
You normally use them for working with like a range of spirits, whether they're positive or whether they're hostile. It's the same thing. You're creating a clean space within which you can work, where you know that the energies are balanced and where you have a clear idea that where you are and where the spirit is, to prevent the spirit causing problems for you.
But what's the purpose of calling them?
What's the purpose of calling them? Well, there are a range of things. Generally, you're tasking them to carry out something for you that you can't do. So whether that's bringing you intelligence, whether that's performing a task, whether that's fetching you something, the whole range of like magical possibilities.
Understood. And you have to be sure that the spirit you're calling is genuinely benevolent.
You have to be sure. It doesn't have to be benevolent, but you have to be sure that it is who you're talking to. It's not just a random smaller spirit that's impersonating that spirit.
Do you have names of particular spirits in mind when you're calling them?
Yes. Yeah.
So are these people that have existed?
So we work with a range of spirit catalogues in the West that are called grimoires. A grimoire comes from the word grammar, and these are books that contain lists of spirits and the symbol of the spirit, and also the magician's kind of loose notes about what these spirits are able to accomplish, what they're able to do, their possibilities.
Can you give some examples of those tasks?
Okay, so those tasks can be anything from bring me a book, to get me a job, to find me a lover, to like show me where something is which is hidden, a whole range of possibilities.
And they're always able to perform those tasks?
Generally, they're able to perform the tasks. If they're not, then you go back and you reassess what went wrong. Are you not able to do this? Do you not have the power to do this? Does the spirit not have the ability to do this? Like you go back and through and check these things. It's almost a scientific method.
Okay. And again, you learned this through books and people.
And this is something you learn through books and people.
It's been 30 years that you've been a practitioner,
Yep.
right? Okay. And you're fairly confident in this process at this point?
Yeah, I'm confident in my processes.
His process sounds very similar to their process. Now, he said it was like almost scientific. And when I had an interview with my witch friend who was kind enough to talk with me, he also displayed a lot of signs of a scientific method. You know, they had it down to a science. And again, I only play that short clip just to kind of, they really got to think about what they're doing, because there's people who really believe in this stuff and they're calling on things that are not that good, and they're calling on them for different reasons. So when you're doing it for no reason other than you want to, and you don't know who you're calling on, I don't know. That doesn't seem like the best thing to do. You don't know what you're bringing into our realm, and you're just doing it because. Something to think about. Anyways, guys, just wanted to bring you all that. Other than that, I'm out of here.